evening. After having watched the movie, now I feel like I'm in a movie.
Yes, we're all in a movie.
Good evening. We've met Aaron already. And I'm Philip. I think I know a lot of you. I used to live in Lawrence. I knew a lot of those people in the movie, actually. Which is kind of crazy. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how quickly they go. And as William said in the movie, time is a resource, right? So
Time is running out.
yeah. So yeah, let's get going. I guess the first question I would really be interested in hearing about, and I think the audience too, would be your relationship to Howard. Like, I guess you were a wee Aaron. When did you become aware of Howard and his awesomeness and coolness, creativity?
Well, early on, I mean, we were very close when I was a little kid. He was my favorite uncle, my favorite relative.
How did that happen?
Which part?
Him being your favorite? Like,
I don't know. It's something like, it was kind of a feeling. It was really interesting because I grew up with this, feeling around him, these memories around him. I mean, there were very obviously cool things. Like, he took me to his movie set, and at lunch, it was like, Aaron Sum's going to join us for lunch, and it was Madonna. So I could recognize, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I did sit in
how old were you then?
7. And my school, I was right after, I don't know, one of our records, but my class picture that year, Lauren Solomon had a t-shirt with Madonna's face on it. And so I did spend the day on the set and him directing Madonna around the Quaid. And I remember telling people at school, oh, what I did yesterday, and no one believed me. They thought I was lying. But it was interesting. I had all these memories, and then actually when I was making my movie Uncle Howard, I started finding all this footage and this home movies of me and him giving me a video camera, me wanting to go with him. So it was interesting to see kind of like I don't know, documentary evidence that reinforced the emotional memory that I had with him. And having...
What year would that have been?
Which year? Well, from the beginning of my life, I was born in 1981, right up until 1989 when he died. In fact, I remember the last Super Bowl going over to his house. The Rolling Stones were doing a 3D halftime show, and he had no 3D glasses, and he was in a wheelchair by then, and he had this really nice pair of Ray-Bans, and my dad, who was an eye doctor, popped out one of the lenses, because with sunglasses, that can kind of create a 3D effect, and doing that. So we were always, very close. Yeah.
So then, when and how did you become aware of the archive of all this footage? Well, just of Aaron's archive in general.
Of Howard's archive. Well, what happened was...
I knew I was going to do that.
Yeah. I always wanted to be a filmmaker since Howard. I had become a filmmaker. And then about 2011, I realized, actually I had found a letter. Me and my wife had found a letter in my grandmother's drawer. It was a letter that Howard had written to his parents to be read after he was dead, saying that, don't be too sad, death is much worse for the living than it is for the dying. But if I live on in your hearts and your memories and the films I made. And my wife and I looked at each other and we said, his films are not around, they're not in circulation anymore. And it really bothered me, this idea of him dying a second death. So I started to look for, okay, you made this amazing film on William Burroughs, where is it? And little did I know, it really kind of became this extraordinary process. And in the beginning, I was just looking for a negative of the movie or a print to make a remaster and to put it back out. And I started talking to some of the people involved in that process. Jim Jarmusch did the sound of the film. I knew Jim and his partner, filmmaker Sarah Driver, to find out about that. And
So had you seen a copy of the film then?
Yeah, I had seen a VHS, growing up. I grew up watching that, but it wasn't available because films don't distribute themselves, and Howard owned his movie.
Right, but I was just curious about how you personally made contact with like Jim Jarmusch or James or
Well, I'll tell you, with Jim I had known, but with James, I had never met him, I didn't know him, and And I called him up. I was a little nervous. And I said, James, this is Aaron Brookner, Howard Brookner's nephew. Aaron, I've been waiting for your call. And that's when he told me, I know you're looking for the film, but there's much more than the film. Howard stored everything he filmed with William and his world in the bunker in 1983, and it's been there for 30 years, which was astounding and staggering and daunting to, walk into a room filled with film cans, original negative rolls, and separate sound, and not know what's what and what goes where, and kind of died.
Did James ever explain to you how it came that Howard chose to store the archive at the bunker?
Oh yeah, I mean Howard was very close with William and James throughout the process of the movie, and Howard started the film in 1978, what you see here, but he filmed with William until 1982, finished the film in 1983 in London with the BBC, and they shipped back to him all of his negative rolls because they were his, and that room in the bunker where you see William in the beginning and James in the background playing guitar, that was sort of like Howard's room. In fact, you see some film equipment in that shot. And so he stored his film cans there because it was safe. The bunker, being a former YMCA locker room, has these very thick concrete walls so it doesn't get too hot in the summer, doesn't get too cold in the winter. It turned out to be very good, actually, fortunately, good, a good environment for films. So he stashed it there, and he quickly, after the Burroughs film, was making a film on Robert Wilson, traveling around the world, and then he was doing Bloodhounds of Broadway, and there wasn't any time to kind of, plan, and it just sat there, and it also, no one was able to kind of do anything with it until I came along. Got more than I bargained for. I liken it to the Big Lebowski, like all the dude ever wanted was to get his rug back. All I wanted was just to put the Burroughs film back out, and lo and behold, uncovered all this. And even this film itself, it's sort of incredible that this happened. I thought I had found all the archive of Howard's in the bunker, and I made Uncle Howard, which told that story, and then continued to work with the archive to assemble it. It's really a lot of work and expense, and we had kind of finished it just at the end of 2021, and Valentine's Day 2022, I get a call from John Giorno's archivist. John had passed away in 2019, and they told me that they had found more boxes of my uncle's films. It's like, I'm sorry, what? And it turned out to be a whole bunch of new negative rolls, and a lot of them were essential to being able to make this film.
So then, as you were going through it, was it organized, was it like labeled Nova 78, or did you how did you come across, how did you distinguish one subject from another? So you had to go through and just watch everything, like 10,000 hours or something.
Well, not that many, but quite a lot. What was interesting is, Nova 78 was the title that we came up with. I basically had to create this archive. There was no guide. There was no one to talk to. I wish I could have talked to and say, oh, Howard, what was this? When was this? But that just didn't exist. So you're dealing with negative rolls that you need to fundraise for just to be able to see what's on it. They need to do work to it. There's also separate magnetic sound, which needs to be digitized and then manually synced. It's a huge operation. But in putting it together, it was really kind of an interesting experience to feel like this is the closest to time travel as I could probably get. And this kind of feeling of like looking around a corner and discovering, this new conversation or these new artists here and there. And I tried to keep that emotion with me throughout the making of this film, to try to transmit that excitement that I felt and that my team felt working on it to the audience, to find these discoveries kind of for yourselves.
I think one of the things that strikes me, particularly about the footage in this, but also the Burroughs documentary, Howard was really on the inside of that world. And in portraits of the people that he made there, like Brian Geisen, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen such a clear portrait of what it was like to be around him, particularly in those interviews. But when I saw that, I was just like, oh yeah, that's exactly what Brian was like. Kind of difficult but charismatic and very interesting. And so you're not just preserving Howard there, you're kind of preserving, I think maybe part of what's making it possible to do it is that you're preserving all these other characters too, and keeping their legacies vital and present. And I think that's an important thing, because nowadays we need that kind of thing, I think, more than you might otherwise imagine. So as you were going through all this footage, how did you base what got included and what didn't get included? Landed on the cutting room floor, as they say.
Yeah, well, I knew there were a couple of phases. I wanted to make sure that all the performers got into the film. But I needed a kind of structure to contain it. And really, when I discovered the Colorado footage, that was very vital to be able to have a kind of place to go out to and come back to. So you're not only in a theater the whole time. And that kind of allowed me to kind of have this kind of road movie, this kind of journey aside, which was really important. The other thing is, having spent all these years working with this footage, I've become very kind of familiar with William Burroughs and his ideas and thoughts, and so, not everything they talked about then is necessarily so relevant for today, but I was very conscious that obviously I'm making this movie for an audience today, and so what are the kind of ideas to extrapolate and to kind of create a narrative with those ideas as well?
I think one of the things that the footage from Colorado and outside of the theater functions as, for me, when I look at it, is like the expansiveness of the ideas that are being expressed in the theater. So it's very astute kind of symbolic filmmaking there, so bravo. Well, how do you fund this? I mean, it's not cheap even to just look at this stuff costs oodles.
No, it's super difficult. And what had happened was I had produced a film that I co-wrote with Rodrigo Arias in Portugal, and really got along well, and it was a very complicated movie to do, but that's how when you go to kind of battle with somebody, that's how you learn if you can work together. And so when I found that I went back to the bunker to get these new films in 2022, and I didn't know what to do, and I called Rodrigo. I've got all these films, the quotes I was getting to just be able to see it were crazy. And Rodrigo was able to say, okay, wait, leave it with me, let me get back to you. And he was able to go to the Portuguese Cinema Institute and say, look, they can come up with funds to scan the footage, to see the footage, to get it going, but we need to make a movie.
The Portuguese funded it.
The Portuguese funded it. We reached out to investors to get it funded. We set up a legacy project for Howard's work to help support that.
We set up a legacy project.
Yeah, not just as one does, but we created the Aaron Brookner Legacy Project as a way to fundraise to support this work also. So it was made between these people, and Portugal is very important to it, and we do all the post-production in Portugal as well.
I want to put in a pitch here because I want to see more of this and make sure that Howard's archive really is permanently archived and preserved, although you're doing a great job. But, you all can donate to the Howard Brookner Legacy Project, and this is how, he will tell you.
Yeah, actually just search for it. We have a fiscal sponsorship, so you can make a donation through the Film Collaborative. The Aaron Brookner Legacy Project has got a page about it, and you can receive tax donations as well in exchange for your contribution to keep all this work going, keep all this history alive. Thank you.
Anything I haven't mentioned here?
No, I mean, maybe there's some questions from the audience. If anyone has any, I see one up there.
Yeah, on that note, if you had the money to do another one, Burroughs film, I'm curious about the Robert Wilson one.
Well, the Robert Wilson film we did actually, last year was a very crazy year, but we did restore the Robert Wilson film and we put it back out. We actually showed it about a year ago. Bob Wilson was able to come and see it before he also passed away. And that film is also going around now with Janus Films, and with the it'll be on the Criterion channel too.
Any other questions? Sarah Lynn, I see you down here.
Well, it's not really a question, but it's a comment, like the art part to me. You could, Merce Cunningham. That was so artful, the way it was restated. And I guess I just want to say that if there was a clip from it that would project the whole feeling, it would be that Merce Cunningham. And I guess maybe to follow with one question, because the way he dances in this particular moment anticipates and reflects all the other dances. And I'm just wondering if the Cunningham Foundation has seen this film.
That's a good question. I don't know if they've seen this film. Yeah, I don't know.
The potential collaborators there.
Yeah.
When
But I
I saw
love that
it,
performance, yeah.
particularly the second time I saw the Cunningham Cage collaboration, it seemed like they were making a language, or like how we might move in the future or something. Like there's like this evolutionary risk
Exactly.
there.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
10,000 examples are going to fail, but one of them is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
There's a question.
Well, I have a comment on the question. First, as someone who grew up with and knew James Garfield their whole life, we both originated in Coffeyville. I can't say for certain what he would have thought of this, but I'm pretty sure he'd be pretty happy, because this may be the most vital documentary of something that the country should know about since maybe Questlove did Summer of Soul. It's an astonishing achievement, and you and your collaborators are to be nothing but congratulated. My question is, what is the future of this film in terms of distribution, etc.?
Well, we are going to be distributing it in cinemas and streaming in Canada. We're working on something for right now for the U.S. It has distribution in Brazil. It's been playing at a lot of festivals. We're going to be premiering it in London in the fall. It's having a nice life. It's not easy to distribute a movie these days, or a documentary also, especially one made from another era. But I've been encouraged by the people who are all over the world who are really kind of devoted to all of these artists, William and all the rest, and to the people who are discovering the movie, and discovering the experience of being able to go into this kind of world, an immersive world. And I'm glad you brought up Summer of Soul, because that was something in my mind. I was conscious of that, and a really kind of extraordinary way to bring back a history and move it forward, into something. And I appreciate you acknowledging that. Because the other thing is, these fragments of history really get lost, and storytelling is so vital to providing a vessel, a container to carry this. And
There's a question up in the balcony. The microphone's coming your way.
It's a little hard to see from down here, so.
It's up on the right
Laureline,
balcony.
Hi.
You can help us navigate.
It was a really beautiful film, thank you. I was just curious because you had a relationship with Howard as a child. Do you feel like you were somehow channeling his vision because you were using all of his archival footage? Do you feel like there was an innocence in your perspective because you knew him as a young boy and not as an adult?
Kind of. It's interesting because I have kind of grown up essentially, or this is a kind of chapter in my own career of working with his footage. I learned a lot from him by experiencing how he navigated this world and what he shot and how he shot it. But I also have learned kind of how we're different, as filmmakers. And that has kind of been part of the kind of, maturation process. Howard was very direct, and great at kind of just, being very present in the moment, which is how he was able to connect with all of these, different artists. And it is really extraordinary to be able to go from, making a movie with William Burroughs, who's very kind of specific, to then Robert Wilson, to then like a Hollywood movie at Navigating Studios. It's pretty extraordinary. And I have some of that, but I'm also, growing up, I was also equally interested in architecture and fine art, and, a little bit different. And with this movie, in a funny way, it was very, it was a movie where you might think it could be constricting because we're using someone else's footage from another time, but in that kind of restriction, I really discovered a lot of new ways of telling story. I mean, it was kind of a daring decision on our part to make a film only with the archive, and it's very challenging technically to create a story or a narrative enough, where a film is kind of watchable, at least, and hopefully enjoyable at the most.
Well, it's like the archive is your cutout.
It is a bit like a cut-up, and also understanding. I mean, I really felt like I was kind of writing with William's words, also, and kind of shaping it and taking the things that I thought were relevant for now, particularly now, and working with that, like a cut-up, like a sculpture, making something new with it. So in that way, it's very Burroughsian, maybe meta.
I have a question too, actually, right next to her. There was an event that happened here in Lawrence at the Lead Center in 1988, called the Nova Convention Revisited, that had a lot of these. What was that?
River City in '87.
River
That's
City
different.
Reunion was
That's different.
87.
Yeah, there's a one that happened at the Lead Center with Burroughs.
That was '96, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it happened, and it had Philip Glass and Patti Smith and of course Burroughs. And I was wondering if you know about any footage or any kind of documentation that happened around that event, and if that could ever see the light of day.
I know of it, and I think there is a video. I think that exists of that, quite a lot of it. But I'm not the expert on that.
Gotcha.
So I wouldn't want to mislead. I'm a de facto expert on this particular chunk of history.
I agree.
If I had two more brains, maybe.
We have a question here in the front.
Where are the cans of film now, and does the bunker still exist, and where is it?
What was the first question?
Where are the cans of film at now?
Where are the cans of film? Well, the cans of film are in a film storage facility somewhere on Earth. And the bunker was turned into it's interesting because the bunker was preserved as William had it. by John Giorno. And then after John passed, it turned it into a kind of event space. So one of the walls has been knocked down, but William's bedroom is kept as it was, and there's a pistol in his dresser drawer, and his artwork is still there. The orange chairs from the bunker table, that's still there. And we did actually a screening, a kind of immersive screening of this movie there in February, which was really cool.
Is John's Buddhist shrine still there in the bunker?
Very much so.
Very good.
Any other last burning
Yeah,
questions?
looks like we're no more. How about a big, well, first off, don't forget to donate to the Brookner Legacy Foundation, and a big round of applause here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to the Free State Festival.